we'll do is make sure all of the mics are turned off and put up the usual closed session screen on the stream. Rather than just ending it, it will just show now in closed session with no volume.
Perfect. Okay, if everyone's ready, I'm going to go ahead and call today's meeting of the Yountville Finance Authority to order. It is 2 p.m. Can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Reeves? Here. Councilmember McKee Kent?
Here.
Councilmember Tripp?
Here.
Mayor Mueller?
Here. And Vice Mayor Knight will be joining us shortly. So thank you very much. And can we get a motion and a second to adopt today's agenda?
Move adoption of the agenda.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion by Reeves and a second by McKee Kent. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you very much. Item number 4, election of officers. Somebody want to give us a brief update on the procedure, or should we just go ahead and make a motion that the mayor is the...
I have placed that on the consent calendar for the agenda, but last year's meeting, it was requested that staff bring back an item to saying that the mayor will automatically be the chair and vice mayor will be the vice chair, and the bylaws have been updated accordingly.
All right. Do we need a motion to that effect for today? Why not?
For item 7A, if we want to wait till we get to that item, we can go ahead and approve it there.
Okay, so we'll just use the 2023 officers for today. All right, that works. Approval of minutes. Can we get a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the January 17th, 2023? I'm sure we all remember that meeting.
I move that we approve the January 17th, 2023 meeting minutes. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by McKee Kent, a second by Tripp. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? That passes unanimously. Do we have any public comment on anything not listed on the Finance Authority? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the consent calendar. We have one item, which is the annual financial report for the Yountville Finance Authority. We have a motion and a second for that, please.
I move that we, bring forward that we move the annual finance report for approval.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by McKee Kent, a second by Reeves, and all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? That passes unanimously. And we have no presentation today, is that correct?
No presentations for the Finance Authority, Mayor.
All right, great, and no public hearing. We have no administrative or regular items. Do we have any staff informational reports? Seeing none, we'll move on. Can we get a motion to adjourn to the Yountville Housing Authority?
Move adjournment to the Housing Authority.
Second.
We have a motion by Reeves, a second by McKee Kent. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? That passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. And now I am going to open our meeting for the Yountville Housing Authority for Tuesday, January the 16th. It is 2:04 p.m. And we have the same, can we just, I'll just note that we have the same mayor and 3 council members here for that meeting as well. And we forgot to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, so this might be a good time. Well, let's do roll call. We already did that. Let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm sorry I forgot to do that before. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Election of the officers, we will stipulate that the officers will be as they were in 2023. And we need a motion to approve the minutes from January the 17th, 2023.
All right, I will move that we approve the minutes from January 17th, 2023.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by McKee Cant, a second by Tripp, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? That passes unanimously. Public comment on anything not on today's agenda? Seeing none, I'll move on to the consent calendar. We have one item. Can we get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Is this where I might bring up that one item in the resolution to clarify who is who on the authority? And maybe Gary can sort of spell that out.
Yeah, happy to. So on the agenda for your housing authority for this meeting, there's a revision to the bylaws. At the meeting last January, a question was asked by the commission at that time about why these bylaws didn't specify the mayor and the vice mayor and the town manager in those roles. So that's why the amendments are here. Question was asked before the meeting about section 4 of the bylaws regarding the secretary and why we haven't specified there that the town manager is the secretary and the executive director. We certainly could make that change to here, and I think that would clarify that the town manager is the person who serves in that role. The reason why the secretary is the executive director, that's in state law, and so those two roles are tied for your housing authority because state law requires it. But if you all want to make that change, it would be the town manager shall be the secretary and the executive director of the authority. And that would just be a change to the opening sentence, opening line of section 4 in the bylaws.
Thank you very much for that.
Mayor?
Yes.
I just brought that up because as I was reading the bylaws, it went through mayor, vice mayor, and then it didn't clarify who was the secretary, so I thought it should be clear.
So I'm assuming you might want to make that motion with that clarification?
Okay. I move approval of the consent calendar with the amendments stated by town attorney to correct the office of secretary, executive director.
Okay, is that clear to our clerk? All right.
It is, Mayor.
With that, do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? That passes. Consent calendar passes unanimously. And we do have a presentation. The Housing Authority for the City of Napa is going to come up and give us our annual report. So if you could just state your name for us. And
Jonathan,
welcome.
thank you. Thank you for having me, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Jonathan Sakamoto with the City of Napa Housing Authority, and so I'll provide you the annual report for this year. So the town contracts annually with the Housing Authority of the City of Napa to provide a variety of services. They range from countywide, being rental assistance programs, provides homeless service type programs. We also provide service to the town under their housing services agreement that include technical assistance related to a variety of housing functions, maintaining the affordable housing stock, funding resource opportunities that are available, monitoring the affordable housing projects, and rental assistance that takes place within the town. Additionally, the Housing Authority is contracted to administer the town's home and Cal Home programs, as well as the permanent local housing allocation funding through HCD. So let's see. Countywide, so Section 8 rental assistance services, the Housing Authority administers a $13 million Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. There's roughly 1,150 participants countywide, 20 of which take place right here in the town of Yountville. And there are 4 households on the wait list who are also town residents. So it's one of the main functions of the Housing Authority. This rental assistance program is for very low-income households, so a vulnerable population, and it is the largest amount of work that we provide throughout the county. In May of 2022, the Housing Choice Voucher Program held a lottery to establish a new waiting list, and we're hoping by the end of this year we'll be able to reopen it. due to HUD's questions with HUD and funding and financing, we're just holding off to see what's going to happen. Next slide. Okay, for housing assistance projects for the continuum of care, countywide, we provide services for homelessness. Myself and the housing manager represent the town in a current monthly continuum of care meetings where local nonprofit agencies and the county health and human services gather to discuss strategies and develop programs to end homelessness within the county of Napa. HUD approved our 2023 application with an increase to compensate for the higher costs of housing in Napa County. And let's see, at this time, the point in time count is going to be conducted here pretty soon to determine how many homeless folks are throughout the county, getting a snapshot of what services need to be rendered and what changes may need to happen coming in the future. The next area would be the general housing services contract. So when it comes to regulatory agreement monitoring, we monitor the annual for sale affordable housing projects. So we have to verify that the owners still live there, that they haven't rented it out, that the homes are properly insured, and that taxes are current. We also have to respond to any of the inquiries from the homeowners if they want to sell, if they want to refinance. We guide them through that process to make sure they maintain their compliance with your guys' agreements. And for the annual rental project monitoring, we make sure that all the affordable housing complexes are in compliance with the town's agreements, that they are providing their tenant income certifications appropriately, and they are maintaining their affordability units, as well as compliance with your local preference policy. Next slide. So program administration and loan servicing. So we provide marketing and outreach to the town's homeowners for the homeownership repair program. In the mobile home parks, and we'll do direct mailings, public announcements when we can. Recently, I believe when we had our workshop, we discussed that the HCD finally approved the waiver requirements so that we could help homeowners, not just the mobile home parks, but the homeowners. So we're continuing to market to try to reach folks who may be in those homes where the value is very high, but we didn't previously have the ability to help them. So in the area of loan servicing, we conduct the annual monitoring to confirm they continue compliance. And next, I'll talk to you about the home and cow home program. So the 2019 home grant, the town was awarded $500,000 on December 15th, 2021, all of which is for the owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program. So it was approved in 2021, but it took them until 2023 to grant the waiver. So that has really curtailed our ability to get the money out there into the community, but we will continue, and we will ask for an extension for more time. We have until December 31st of this year to spend that $500,000. Given the costs of construction, it's definitely possible that we could reach the $500,000 this year alone as well. So lots of options. Next slide, please. For the cow home grant program, this was awarded back in 2014. It expired in 2018. Currently, there's a balance as of December 31st of $31,750. Since there's an active grant, there's no need to rush to spend that $31,000. That'll just remain there until there's no active current grants, and we'll use that funding at that time. Okay. So additionally, the grant agreements for the cow home and home program, we have to maintain all the financial record keeping. We have to maintain all the reporting that goes out, even when it's laborious. We have to do all their different types of reporting as the time changes and then as they change their processes as well. We maintain the grant financial accounting records as well for program income as it comes in. So new this last year was the application to the PLHA program for additional funding. The town is working with the Housing Authority to develop the junior unit accessory dwelling unit loan program. This will be modeled after our current program that exists in the city of Napa, and will provide the technical assistance for the accessory dwelling units or junior accessory dwelling units, and require they be rented at an affordable rate to affordable housing income of low-income folks as well. And then the Housing Authority continues to provide technical assistance wherever necessary for any housing-related issues. And I wanted to make sure I brought up that the general service contract with the City of Napa is scheduled to conclude on June 30th, 2024. So as we approach this expiration date, we'll look forward to discussions in upcoming months to continuation of our services. And thank you for your time this afternoon. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Thank you very much for coming and giving us that update. Do we have any Questions on this?
May I go ahead, Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Tripp.
I actually had two questions. One, I wanted to ask you, I read recently, and this is something I think is really important because I interacted with a town resident this year, a senior citizen who had a lot of health issues, who had to leave they had a stable housing situation but had to leave it. And it was really difficult to find a new housing situation because of the income requirements that, you need. So anyway, I don't need to tell you all this, but I recently read that the county of Napa, I believe it was the county and not the city, received a $500 million grant, especially designed for senior housing. Am I correct about that? And does your agency have any involvement in that?
We don't have involved. That would be the county.
That would be the county?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the county, I forget, BAFA, I believe is where they got the funding through to do senior housing.
Is that a federal BAFA?
State.
State, okay. Thank you. And then my other question was, I'm really interested in this 2019 program, which of the $500,000. And I think we talked a little bit about this the last time you were here, about the outreach. And I do understand exactly what you're saying about being able to use those funds on mobile homes, which have a whole different issue because you can't really take a mortgage in the same way because it's a ground lease, basically.
Right.
So my question is, you mentioned an extension because now we're January of 2024, December of 2024. What is the likelihood we could get an extension?
Very likely,
Very
given the
likely.
argument that we could make that the only reason we weren't able to expend the fund was due to the delay at their part. And they want you to spend the money, so.
Right, and we do have especially in the low income, we do have a lot of mobile home and manufactured homes, so that argues towards that.
Right.
Have we used any of those funds to date? Do you know?
No, we have a couple applications in, but we haven't used any funds to date, mainly because of the delay.
Okay.
Part of the reason why we haven't done any in the mobile home parks is because we've done so much in the past. We've visited the parks before, and we've done lots of work throughout the community over the years. And so, quite frankly, most of them have been fixed at this point. We're just waiting if there's any additional people in the parks, or
Okay.
if we reach out to the homeowners.
Or the homeowners. And in terms of publication and whatnot, is there any chance that we could use the Yountville Sun or anything along those, in other words, the local newspaper, or maybe you already have? I don't recall ever seeing anything about this program. Because there could also be homeowners who might be able to use it as well, in addition to the manufactured homes.
We can certainly explore that, yeah.
Yeah, I would really think outreach would be really helpful, just because these programs, people tend to feel confused and overwhelmed and whatnot. So I would be a proponent of that.
Understood.
And then on your final bullet point about developing the junior and accessory dwelling unit loan program, I'm also interested in loan, as well as, I believe you mentioned last time you were here, there were some grant programs sometimes available for the design costs involved. Now, the top bullet says permanent local housing allocation. Is that our HCD number? Is that what you mean?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure what you meant. Okay.
Yes, sorry.
And then how will you go about either helping Yountville look at a program similar to Napa for grants and loans? Is that an ongoing thing that you work with Brad, or how is that? How does it work?
It would be an ongoing thing to work with Brad to show him what our programs have looked like, what we've been able to achieve. We have a pretty successful used program in Napa.
Yeah.
But we would like to make sure that works for your community as well, and what changes we may need to make to address the.
Yeah, it probably would require some, perhaps some modifications.
Right,
but-
you have a unique community that's different from ours, but we do
Exactly.
want to make sure that we use the funding in the way we have applied for. Or we can change the amendment into the application for PLHA.
Do you have funding now? No, we don't. I don't believe there's any dedicated funding.
No dedicated, right? Well, it's set aside, that $350,000 set aside for what could be this program. We just need
Oh.
to finish fleshing out the program to continue on.
Oh,
that
and
journey.
is that money that's held at the Housing Authority, or is on Yountville's? It's at the Housing Authority.
On your behalf.
350,000. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Those were my questions, and thank you. That was a really helpful presentation.
Of course, thank you. Thank you all for your time.
All right, thank you very much for coming. And let's go ahead and move on. Public hearings, we have none. Administrative regular items, there are none. Do we have any staff informational reports? None. And any commissioner comments or reports? Seeing none, can we get a motion to adjourn to our Yountville Housing Authority meeting for Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at 2 p.m. I'll make a motion that we move to that.
I'll second.
And Vice Mayor Knight seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? Okay, that passes. Huh?
That's why I was kind of like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, we're going to move to the
Way to jump in there, Eric, thank you.
all right, so with that, now we are on to the Yountville Parking Authority, and I'll call this meeting to order for Tuesday, January the 16th at 2:21 p.m. And can we just stipulate the same roll call? Everyone is present, including Vice Mayor Knight. And can we get a motion to adopt today's agenda?
Move to adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Reeves, a second by McKee Cant. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No abstain. That passes unanimously. Election of officers, we're going to use the same officers as we did for 2023. Approval of minutes from January 17th, 2023. Can I get a motion and a second? I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes. Somebody want to second that?
A second?
Okay, Moeller made the motion, Vice Mayor Knight made the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstain? That passes unanimously. And public comment, seeing no public, we will move on to the consent calendar. Can we get a motion to approve the annual financial report for the Yountville Parking Authority?
Move approval of the consent calendar.
I will second.
Okay, motion by Reeves, second by McKee Cant. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstain? That passes unanimously. We have no presentations, no public hearing, no administrative regular items. Do we have any staff informational reports? Seeing none. Any commissioner comments, reports? Seeing none, can we get an adjournment to the Parking Authority special meeting for Tuesday, January 21st, 2025?
Move approval?
I'll
Or
second.
Okay, Vice Mayor made a motion, and we have a second by McKee Cant. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? Okay, with that, let's go ahead and move to our special meeting agenda, which is a closed session. It is, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 2:23. And with that, we can stipulate that all council members and the mayor are present. And can we get a motion to adopt today's agenda?
Is the camera off?
No? We're still in a meeting.
That's a closed session?
Oh, it will, once we get there. So we need a motion,
I motion to adopt.
and I'll go ahead and second. We have a motion and a second to adopt today's agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank
Any
you.
opposed? Any abstain? Okay, that passes unanimously. Do we have any public comment that's not on the special closed session meeting? Seeing no public, we'll move on to closed session. So Attorney Bell, do we have a closed session item today?
Yes. The council has one.
You guys are ready?
Yep, the lights, we're waiting for the light to go on. All right, I'm going to call today's regular meeting of the Yountville Town Council for its Tuesday, January the 16th, to order. It is 3:04 p.m. Can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Reeves? Here. Councilmember McKee Cant?
Here.
Councilmember Tripp?
Here?
Vice Mayor Knight?
Here.
Mayor Moeller?
Here. Thank you. Can we all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance. Okay, thank you, everybody. Can I get a motion and a second to adopt today's agenda?
Move adoption.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Knight and a second by Councilmember Tripp. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? That passes unanimously. Now, item 5, council member announcements.
Just one quick note. It's time flies through December, but I was just looking through the Yountville Parks and Rec program for this spring, and I just wanted to thank the Parks and Rec Department and Director Holland for a very thoughtfully put together guide, and I encourage the residents to get it. They misplaced it in their mail. They can get it at Town Hall or the Community Center, but it's a well put together program with a lot of very exciting programs, including some new programs that I look forward to attending soon. So thank you.
And I just wanted to mention that the annual Kiwanis Crab Feed is this Saturday. Samantha, do we have any tickets? The tickets are all sold out, so shows you next year, get a jump on it. So, and congratulations to Kiwanis for having a sold-out crab feed yet once again. Any other announcements? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to public comment. This is public. No, we have no proclamations or recognitions today, so I will move on to the public comment for anything not on today's agenda. If you have any comment, can move forward. Seeing nobody move forward, I'm going to move ahead to our consent calendar, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 consent calendar items. So I am looking for a motion and a second for approving our consent calendar.
I move approval of our consent calendar, and with a thank you to Alan Tencher and for Myrna David for stepping up for those two committees. We appreciate the council, your involvement in those committees and all that you help with in the town. Thank you.
You going to roll that into a motion?
I move approval of the consent calendar.
All right. Can we get a second?
I second.
So we have a motion by Knight and a second by Reeves. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? The consent calendar passes unanimously. And Carrie, why don't before we started our regular meeting, we actually had a closed session. Do we have any reportable action from that?
No reportable action from the closed session, but the council did continue that special meeting until the end of this regular meeting. So council will go back into closed session to finish that special meeting after this meeting. If there is any reportable action, it will be at the end of that.
All right. Thank you very much for that. So we have no guest presentations, and because we had Housing Authority, Parking Authority, Finance Authority, and a closed session, apologize to everybody in the public, but right before we go into our first public hearing, the council is going to take a short 10-minute break. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Everybody can turn on their mics, and I'm going to go ahead and resume our town council meeting. We are on item 10, which is a public hearing. This is a public hearing to consider adoption of resolution to approve a commercial use permit for R&D Kitchen for their to-go services. So can we get a staff report, please? I think we're pulling up some slides.
Good afternoon, Mayor Moeller, Vice Mayor Knight, and members of the board. So this item is a request for a commercial use permit and master development plan amendment for the R&D service to-go services to be conducted out of 6795 Washington Street in Washington Square. Next slide. Thank you, Hillary. The to-go operations are current at this location. A portion of the most southwestern building shown on the screen is the location of the to-go services if you have not been there. I thought it might be helpful to provide a little bit of history about the to-go services and why they're operating there now without a use permit, and why this application is fairly minor. The fairly minor request is before you today and requires both a new use permit and master development plan amendment. The to-go services were originally afforded through the ERP program, which was the economic recovery program that the town developed during the pandemic to afford businesses to work outside of their use permits. And prior to the expiration or the sunset date of that program, the Planning and Building Department developed the Washington Street Activation Plan, or program rather, and that program allowed some of those businesses to keep some of the aspects of their ERP program that they were afforded while still being compliant with the code. However, R&D, the to-go services, did not qualify for the Washington Street Activation Program because of its location. So that's why it's going through a more traditional pathway and is before you today. Next slide. So the applicant is wishing to continue the to-go use as they feel it serves both a convenience to the local community, and it has also added the benefit of activating the street corner or the southern portion of the building where it sits in Washington Square. We do have Brian Beal with Hillstone Group here today, and he can speak more to that if he wishes, or if anyone from the board would like to ask any questions. Currently, the take-home orders for R&D are placed online or over the phone and are assembled at the restaurant, packaged at the restaurant, and just brought over to the to-go space for pickup. Next slide. So typically an accessory commercial use like this operates under the use permit of the primary commercial use, but in this case the to-go services out of Building D would require amending just one condition of the original use permit, and when that happens they actually have to apply for a new use permit. That it triggers that. And let's see, so that condition was that deliveries had to be made from the parking lot, so we're switching that to the to-go services. Additionally, the authority for commercial use permits and MDP amendments lies with the town council, and that's why it's before you today. Additionally, because the master development plan for R&D does not include the use of Building D in the master development plan, it's an amendment to that is also required, which would be approved by you today. So although the request is minimal, the application was fully analyzed in accordance with 3 different sets of findings and decisions, the same decisions and findings that would be used for a larger project, a larger scale project, which is why many of the criteria you saw in the staff report were found to be not applicable and no impacts were found. This item was taken to the ZDRB on October 10th and was recommended for approval as presented. And staff found that the findings were met and therefore recommend approval as well, in addition to the proposed conditions. And that's really all we have for you, or that I have for you this afternoon, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have or expand on anything.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and open the public hearing. I'm going to ask our applicant to come up and give us a presentation if he would like, or say a few words, whatever you prefer, and then we can come back to the council, and we'll be able to either direct questions to our staff or to the applicant. And before we bring it back for a council, we'll have public comment, of course, and then bring it back for a further decision. So that's going to kind of be the plan. So with that, I'll officially open the public hearing. And Brian, if you'd like to come up and say hello and any comments that you'd like to make.
Hello, my name is Brian Beal. I'm an executive with Hillstone Restaurant Group, and I would like to thank you for your consideration today for this application. Thank you to staff for, I'm not sure I have much to add because it really kind of covered a lot, but we very much appreciate being able to offer this service to the community. I know from speaking with Micah and several of the people I know here in town that it is it's appreciated and the pizzas are liked, and that a lot of people appreciate it. So with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions. We would love to be able to continue to offer this service, and thank you for the consideration.
All right. Thank you. So let's go to council questions to our staff, and Brian can pop up if you have one kind of for the applicant. So I see no, Councilmember McKee Cant has a question.
Thank you. I do. Just more of a concern about no more than one employee shall be required for the to-go space. And I understand you're trying to make sure that they're not adding to parking requirements and needs, but that if they need any increased staff, then this would have to come back as per Muni code. So that seemed that could be troublesome if it's a busy Saturday night and they need 2 people in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are very concerned about parking in general because the restaurant, we feel the site is maybe a little underparked, and so we're very cautious about adding to parking load on the site. And I can tell you just with experience, I think only one person is operating in that space, purely just because it's much more of all the transaction has already happened. It's mostly just someone coming in to, it's a greeting kind of position. So here's your order and thank you very much. So it's very simple.
So only one person really working that desk and one runner.
That's correct.
So to speak. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Seeing no more questions from the council, the staff, or applicant, I'm going to ask if we received any public comment, and we'll take public comment from the audience.
We received numerous public comments that have been forwarded to the council already, and we did not receive anything after that.
All right. Thank you. Do we have any real live public members who would like to come up? I'm seeing our Executive Director of our chamber.
Good afternoon, everybody. Whitney Diver McAvoy, President and CEO of the Yountville Chamber of Commerce. Happy New Year. It's great to see you all here today. I figured I'd give a comment live because why not, right? So thank you to staff, first of all, for all your hard work, and to Irene in the planning department, and to Brian to having a collaborative discussions over the last couple months to get this to the finish line. There are a lot of questions about how this would work and how it would be received, and I think overall we got to a really good place. So I just wanted to thank you for all of that through that process. For me, this feels like very much a no-brainer. They've been operating with this use permit or this use for the past couple years. This feels like we're just going ahead and making it official now, which I think is wonderful. I think over the last couple years we've seen that the to-go food that R&D provides is delicious, and I know all of us in this room have probably taken advantage of it. And so it provides both a great service, I think, to our locals, but also our workforce here in town who need a quick lunch, and they know they can get delicious food at R&D, and then those of us after work trying to grab something for dinner. So thank you for your consideration on this, and I hope it's adopted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other public comment?
Alan Tencher, 6740 Jefferson Street in Yountville. I just want to commend you for your sensitivity to parking, because we live 2 blocks away, which is great, which means we can go to the restaurant and we can walk home. But it does mean that there is a parking impact. I know the town has worked very hard to have residents not impacted. I know all that you have done. But as time goes by, new employees or older employees decide that they can park in the neighborhoods, and so we're seeing more impact. And I just want to commend you for your sensitivity to parking and encourage your business and other businesses to try and protect that so that we can enjoy not only your wonderful restaurant, but also our residential quality of life. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you for that. See no additional public comment. I am going to I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Would somebody like to make a motion in a second, and then we'll have our debate?
Yikes. I'll move approval, or is it approval or adoption?
Adoption.
Adoption of resolution, let me get it. 24-4246, approving a commercial use permit for R&D Kitchen to provide to-go food services at 6795 Washington Street, Building D.
Okay, can we get a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Reeves, a second by McKee Cant. And so, time for debate. Who would like to go first? I'm watching my little black box here.
Oh, I pushed my button.
Would Councilmember Reeves like to go first? I think so.
I just wanted to say that we received an amazing amount of support from the community for this project, and even before that, those support letters, I was already leaning towards approving this request, because as a resident, I live half a block away, and I do use your facilities for to-go food. So I feel like any activity that we can bring to the Washington Square development is happy, because that has been an underutilized area for quite a while, and we do feel it. So I'm happy to approve it.
Councilmember Tripp.
Yes, I would echo what Pam, Councilmember Reeves said. It's been a really helpful thing for the community and fits in the category of things that residents can more comfortably afford to eat, so that's really helpful. And then my only head scratcher sometimes is probably nobody else reads to the bottom of the online ordering where it says you have to follow the dress code. So I just hope you have some leniency on that when we run in. I'm just joking you, but thank you for a really helpful service, and I'm happy to support this.
Vice Mayor Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. I also wanted to thank Brian for coming in your application, and I also it's wonderful to receive so many letters of support from the community and your customers. You have a very enthusiastic group of people that sent us letters to support you, and I support the use permit and the master plan development amendment. I noted also in the staff report that Assistant Planner Levine also talked about we have a process where we go through for use permit review annually, and so for the community that's something we do, but I appreciate all that you, Brian, you've gone through, and I look forward to your success. So thank you.
And I agree too. I think this is going to be. I could see from some of the letters, some of the public thought we were just going to start shutting something down. But, just again to reiterate what the staff said earlier, this was really something that kind of began during COVID. And this is really just a formal step that we must take, not only including them in the master plan development, but to actually continue the use on a formal basis. So, and I can make all the findings, and just a wish and a hope. There are other empty buildings over there, and I just hope you can take this back, that the communities be very supportive. So whatever you want to put in there, so I can hardly wait to see you back here again very shortly. So just, a personal wish. So with that, I see no other comments. I'll go ahead and do a voice vote. Is everybody, anybody, we've already got a motion, let's see, by Reeves and a second by Knight. Oh, no,
McKee.
you made the motion?
I made the second.
You made the second, sorry. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstain? Congratulations, and again, we look forward to seeing you back very soon. I think that message is loud and clear. All right.
Can we place orders now for pickup?
All right, so that's all been approved, just so the public knows you can continue the use with no stoppage. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
And with that, I'm going to move on. We have 5 administrative items. The first one is to introduce and waive the first reading of an ordinance for salary adjustments for the mayor and council members. And I will go to our town attorney to tell us about this.
Yes, happy to. Mayor and council members, before you this afternoon is the introduction of an ordinance. If you all approve it this afternoon, it would come back for a second reading. And while the ordinance would take effect in 30 days, the salary increase would not take effect until after the November election. And so I'll go into a little more detail on that. Your salaries are controlled by state law. The legislature passes a generally applicable statute to all cities, including the town of Yountville. And that statute governs the amount of your salary and then the increases to your salary over time. So until quite recently, the salary was set at $450 a month and then could go up 5% per year, provided you adopted an ordinance to make that increase, and could not take effect until after the next general election. There's a law that took effect on January 1 of this year. It increases that amount to $950 a month, and then it also limits future increases to 5% per calendar year, or the change in inflation, the CPI, from January 1, 2024 to the time when you make the adjustment, not to exceed 10% a year. So that second piece is new. There's always been a 5% increase that was allowed. Now there's this CPI possibility not to exceed 10%. So there's been an increase in the base salary and then a slight change to how it can be adjusted over time. In any event, it always requires an ordinance from you all, and that ordinance cannot take effect until after the next general election. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Can you just briefly, for the public, just a sentence or two about this new state law that is probably the reason we're discussing this?
Yes. The new state law was passed last year, signed by the governor last year, and took effect on January 1, just a couple weeks ago. It applies to all cities, including the town. It creates basically doubles the base salary. For your all purposes, it's pretty close to what your current salary is, based on prior increases from prior town councils here in Yountville. But that's what's prompted this, and that is why the ordinance is before you this afternoon.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions of staff? Councilmember Tripp.
So our current salary is $777 based on your report, I believe. And so now the base salary would, after the November election, under this new law, increase to $950, right? And would the 5% be automatic under this ordinance, or would we need to vote on it every year? Or I also realize it could be 5% or the CPI.
Yes, so you will need to adopt future ordinances. It's one of the things in state law that is prevented, is having an automatic future increase in it.
Okay.
So it would set it at 950. Future councils could increase it based on one of those two factors by adopting another ordinance at some time in the future.
Okay, and this was interesting to me too, because I wasn't aware of this, but this band of salary is based on towns with less than 35,000 people, correct? If you have more than that, then councils typically, perhaps make more.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember McKee Kent.
Thank you. So the 950 goes into effect with the next election, and the subsequent CPI or the 5% increases, do those are they considered annual, or are they aligned like with the next election, or do you wait until the 2028 election?
Yeah,
Is that
so,
a yearly?
Yeah. So it's always up to the next council on when to do it and the timing of that. They are per calendar year. So
Okay,
starting
fiscal.
this year, January 1 of this year is when you would start counting for that increase. And so we would look back from the last increase to the current, how many calendar years have gone, and then calculate the possibilities. But the timing of that and exactly when to do it, so it's always up to the next council.
Okay.
Seeing no more questions, can we, I'll open it up for public comment. Do we have any public who would like to express their opinion? Seeing no public come forward, I will bring it back for a motion. If somebody could make a motion, and we'll have a second, and then we can debate.
Mayor, I will move that we introduce and waive the first reading of ordinance number 24-527, authorizing a salary adjustment for mayor and town council members to be effective upon commencement of the new council member terms.
I'll second.
Could we have a motion by McKee Cant and a second by Knight? And
A question, does this motion need to also include the authorizing the annual salary adjustment? And would we want it to be 5% or the CPI?
No, this doesn't need to authorize that because
Okay.
this will set it at 950, and then in the future,
I see.
you'd make that
Okay.
decision.
And I'll just, make a comment. It's like, with the old number we had, I think, council members might, for some of our work, make, 75 cents an hour. So I think we're going to get bumped up to over $1. So it's really, it's always hard to sit up here and say, oh, yeah, I'm going to take some more money. But, I think, the intent of the bill was also to, have a little extra money to really kind of encourage people to sit up here and do this job. You're definitely not going to, this will not be your only job by any means, and it's nothing that anybody can live on. But that's really the intention, and the way it's structured, too. I think we're really setting this up for future councils. We're not always going to necessarily be here. So I'm in support of this as well. Seeing no other comments, we have a motion and a second. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, so that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We're going on to item 11B, which is to consider a resolution to approve a mid-year budget adjustment. And Kyle from our Finance Department is going to give us a staff report. I don't think your mic is on.
I think it is now.
Now it is.
Awesome. Good to see everybody today. Good afternoon, Mayor and Town Council. Recently, the town staff performed an in-depth mid-year budget review for the current fiscal year 23-24, and the intent of these reviews is to analyze individual accounts for any unforeseen costs, increases, or any unexpected activity. And if necessary, we'll present to Council requested budget adjustments to realign our original budget with what we now anticipate to be our actual activity for the year. So after this review, town staff did find some current fiscal year revenue and expenditure accounts with unforeseen cost increases and unexpected activity in the current fiscal year. And so we do have a couple of budget adjustments to present to ensure proper budget management. First of all, quick note, there is a minor typo, sorry about that, on the staff report on page 2. After the bullet points, there's a second paragraph that starts with the current balance of the unassigned for budget contingency fund. On the second line there, it says these funds to cover the requested $91,340 expenditure budget adjustments. That should change to $141,340. So, yeah, sorry about that, but just wanted to verbally correct that on the staff report. So for general fund revenues, town staff is requesting a total increase of $265,140 to general fund revenues, and that's mostly made up of increasing the TOT budget by $225,000 up to $8 million due to anticipating collecting more TOT revenue than originally projected, which is wonderful. And town staff is also requesting a total increase of $316,340 to general fund expenditures due to unforeseen cost increases and unexpected activities for items such as higher than expected property insurance costs, attorney services, and additional Parks and Rec part-time staff due to an increased number of camp attendees, which is also great. And so that's for the general fund. Those are requested budget adjustments for the general fund. And there are a couple of requests for non-general fund as well. So we're requesting a $6,000 budget increase in the Water Utility Operations Fund 61 to cover additional water testing costs. A $10,000 increase to both revenues and expenditures in our Public Art Program Fund 23 to cover the cost of placing additional sculptures. And lastly, a $38,000 budget transfer from departmental health insurance budgets into our Fund 02. So that's a summary of all of the requests, and we are available for any questions.
Thank you very much for that. Do we have any questions from council? Councilmember Tripp.
Thank you, and that was a very detailed and helpful staff report that you and Celia worked on. So I have a pretty basic question, which is, we have a current unassigned budget. Well, let me, maybe I don't understand this, but I thought we had an unassigned fund balance, and I'm looking at the paragraph that says the current balance of the unassigned budget contingency fund. So that's probably not the unassigned fund balance.
That is correct.
That's the 10% or
5%, correct, that we set aside when we're adopting the budget at the beginning of the year.
Okay, and so is that 573,000 something that came into, that's part of the contingency from this year, this fiscal year?
That is the current fiscal year 23-24. So yeah, we have the total unassigned fund balance number, but then we also have fund balance allocations that we set aside. So that's where the assigned for budget contingency fund comes in, and that's the 573,667.
Okay. So the unassigned fund balance, which would have been visible after the I don't want to say accrued, but it came out of last fiscal year. Is any of this related to that or using any of that?
It is not.
It is not. Okay, so that still exists.
Correct.
Okay, and then is this do we annually? I don't recall last year doing such a large budget adjustment. Maybe we did, but did we? Is this an annual process?
It's reviewing the budgets is definitely an annual process. Sometimes, depending on the nature of the unexpected activity, it's not it's not necessary to come to council. But yeah, this year we thought to get ahead of a couple things just in case, if necessary, would be best.
So. It's kind of fortuitous that we have an excess of TOT that we always go in with a conservative number.
Correct.
So it's not I mean, it's good news, but it's not totally surprising. But this is not. These requests are not really related to the additional TOT in the sense that we have a contingency reserve, right?
Correct.
So we might be doing this regardless of what the TOT told us.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to get clearer in my mind the extra TOT versus the increased budget. It's a good thing, but it's not necessarily related.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no, Vice Mayor Knight, question.
Thank you, Mayor. Good. I also wanted to thank Director King and for Financial Analyst Batista for your report. They're always very clear, and I also wanted to thank Councilmember Tripp. I mean, because I think what you've really highlighted that it continues to show how well the town and our finance department plans, because we're reallocating assigned contingencies, but for this community we still have. And have always successfully had, we have an unassigned fund balance that this doesn't even touch. So that's something maybe we'll be able to consider, as we come forward towards budget. But this is good planning. It's annual planning where we use those funds set aside. And so thank you for your good work and for keeping all these funds funded well and dealing with changes like property all the property taxes. I don't know if anyone else is, but trying to get homeowner insurance and auto insurance these days in this California is difficult, and those fees and prices are going up. So I'm sure it's obviously happening for cities and towns as well. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
So do we have any public who would like to come and have anything to say about our budget adjustments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council. I see Councilmember Reeves maybe have a question, or would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to move adoption of resolution number 24-4247, approving mid-year budget adjustments for fiscal year 23-24.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Reeves and a second by McKee Cant. Any other discussion on this item? I see no lights going on, so let's go ahead and do roll call vote. Not a roll call, but everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? That passes unanimously. Thank you. And number 11C, now is a discussion and possible action regarding town council members. In addition to seeing our smiling faces up here, we move around the county quite a bit, and we serve on many different countywide boards and committees, and internally some ad hoc and standing committees, and we're going to talk about those now. So can we get a staff report, please, Hillary?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Town Council. Before you is the annual review of internal and external committee assignments. Staff is requesting that you review the current assignments as well as any standing or ad hoc committees to see if they should either be disbanded or a newly created committee.
All right, so with that, let's see, we're on item C. Let me hit.
And a roster was included for your review as well.
So should we, I think it might be easiest if we just kind of go down the current roster and kind of talk about any changes that anybody would like to make. Let me switch glasses. No wonder I can't see it. So I want to make sure that, and make sure, Hillary, that as we're making some adjustments here, I'll try to make some notes, but
Oh, I will
haven't
take,
got 'em, let me know.
absolutely,
Okay.
and then the new roster will be provided.
All right, great. So is there, should we just kind of go through these one by one? The town council is not going to change and maybe during the election, so nothing to do there. The housing, finance, and parking authorities, I think we've approved that during the consent, who's going to be the chair and the vice chair, and all the council members are on that. ZDRB, that is not us, we appoint those. Parks and Rec, same. Yountville Art Commission. Let's go down to the rosters here. Let's skip down through.
Page 14. Oh, page 4.
Page 4. So the Napa County City Selection Committee, that's always the mayor, and doesn't really have an alternate. Flood control, I am currently on flood control. We just met this morning. We'll hear about that later. And Councilmember Tripp, are you still fine being the alternate, or?
I'm fine, but if there's someone who has a desire,
Your microphone a little bit closer. I want to make sure that, okay.
I'm fine, but if there's someone who has a desire to do this, that would be fine with me.
And just so you know, we just finally, I was able to orchestrate moving the meetings. They used to be at 1:30, right before our council meetings, which was always a bit challenging running there and back. And now they're on at 9 a.m. We meet monthly. Very interesting work about all the flood walls, and I'll give a little update on that later. But that's what that means about. So nobody's.
I'm happy to be an alternate. don't know if we want to kind of go through these and then circle back and kind of see how everything shakes out, but if
Either way is fine.
Councilmember Tripp ends up with other assignments, I understand you'd probably like to take something off your plate.
I would be fine with that. I think it's good to some extent to rotate some of these positions because just like a business, we have to kind of think about making sure we have people in the wings who also know what's going on these various commissions, and we have a lot of the right. So I think it's good to rotate and get all of us exposed in the event that we just need more knowledge.
Knowledge is good.
And that,
So, yeah.
to that, I also, if you are an alternate on any of these, it's like talk to your primary and really get it up to speed, because all of a sudden if you need to fill in, you really don't know what kind of is going on. So I think that certainly allowed by the Brown Act and should be encouraged by all of us to, if you're an alternate, to stay abreast of stuff. And all of us, when we give our reports, they're really quick highlights, but feel free to contact whoever. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just kind of keep a running list, and we can always kind of come back and see
These
how.
are 9 a.m.,
Yeah.
so you've noted that.
And so what Hillary will do, she'll contact the staff person, get you on the list, but then Hillary can just tell you the staff person, you should reach out to the staff person and get the list of all the meeting dates and locations.
Okay.
And when somebody needs their alternate, it's your responsibility to reach out to your alternate, not go to the staff person on the board and have them do it. It seems like a pretty circuitous route that way, but just in case we're not clear, that's the best procedure I have found. NVTA, currently, it's myself and Eric, and the Hillary is the alternate. Now, do we have one alternate, or is this two?
Robin is also the
Two,
alternate.
which you've
Okay.
required me once. Is everybody at the higher level committed to staying? Eric and
I would
Hillary?
love to give you my seat, but
Is it
the
for sure
bylaws say I
automatic?
can't.
It's bylaws?
Yeah,
Okay.
bylaws.
Does someone have an interest, or, I mean, I'd be willing to switch. Hillary, would you be interested in on this position? I know it's a Wednesday meeting, but so I don't. I'm happy to stay at that site. I know you'll be acting as the alternate tomorrow at tomorrow's meeting, but for me. But are you interested in this?
Not especially, but I wonder if Robin might be interested.
Yeah.
I think transportation is really critical, and especially here in town, so I'm happy to be, so it's not alternate, it is the second member.
If Vice Mayor Knight is willing to go that route, I would think that might, because I know Councilmember McKee Cant has a good knowledge and a real interest in the transportation issues. So I would kind of defer to her, and I would be willing to remain an alternate.
Okay, and then you'll remain alternate number one, and
Yeah,
Eric, would you like to be alternate number two?
Yeah,
or
I'd be willing to do, if you'd like to take the position. I'm not sure how soon we do it. I know you're scheduled to attend tomorrow for.
Yes, well, Robin and I are talking about that, but
Okay.
yes, one or the other of us will be there.
Okay,
and
all right.
as well as the next meeting,
Right.
which I think is the 21st, something like that of February.
In February. Yeah, I'm happy to become the second alternate.
Okay.
Okay, we gotcha.
Okay.
And if anybody, we got a big agenda tomorrow, and there's a lot of stuff, so either call Eric or I, and we'll get you up to speed, and we'll allow some time for that, if you haven't been doing that. Let's see, next is Upper Valley Waste Management. I am the chair and the member, and Councilmember Tripp, do you want to stay as the alternate?
Yes.
Okay. Next, let's move on to WIC. We currently have Vice Mayor Knight, and Reeves is the alternate.
That committee, it seems that more times than not, they cancel that meeting. I'm not sure. I've seen, I know they have a ad hoc committee, but I'm willing to stay on that committee, assuming that we actually meet. So maybe, if that's okay, Phil, because I know you're doing the other committee, climate action. So I'll stay with WIC if.
Right. I think at the last WIC meeting, they were trying to consolidate all of their ad hoc committees so that there were fewer. And I think that they intended to actually keep their schedule now.
Okay. All right. Good.
And so, Pam, you're going to stay as the alternate?
Yeah.
All right. Napa County Youth Commission. I know, Eric, is it very active?
I have never been called, or I think it's just something we fill in, but it's not been something that the county has activated in a long time. So I'm happy to stay there and to work with Sergeant Malott if there's an issue that comes up.
Hillary, is that something you can check into? I just want to make sure it's still.
Yes, Mayor, I just put a
dissolved and
question
we
mark
don't know
next
about
to it. It's worthy of a little investigation.
Okay, yeah, because I haven't heard about anything for a long time. So let's just make sure it's still.
That's fine. I'll stay
Still
there
active.
if it's still basically an inactive commission. Then I can stay there.
Okay. LAFCO, that's an appointed position by the city selection committee. And my term goes for, I think, a couple more years. Climate action. Okay, so we have 2 members on that trip, Ann Reeves, and Vice Mayor, you're the alternate. Do we want to make any changes? Stay with that?
Fine.
I'd like to remain on that committee.
Okay, no changes. And regional, all of us are on Cal Cities, and ABAG. And this is, something that Councilmember Tripp is on, and Vice Mayor Knight is the alternate. Would you like to keep those?
It's very interesting. So far, you go once a year, and it was really interesting last year because they've joined with MTA, but MTC. Thank you. I'm happy to continue, but also happy if there's someone else who's interested, because it is not a big commitment, but you do find out what's going on regionally, which is actually quite interesting because it's the Association of Bay Area Governments. So if no one else is interested.
I'm happy to stay as the alternate.
Okay.
If you enjoy continuing.
Yeah, do you want to
it.
do it, Eric, or you?
Well, it would. I'm happy to switch with you if you'd like. I attended ABAG years and years ago, so it's
only
up
if
to
you want to.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I'd be happy to
Okay.
do the
Okay, that's
ABAG
fine, and
this
I'll be
year.
the alternate then.
Okay, so we're just going to switch. ABAG is
It's usually a June meeting, I think.
Eric.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
And alternate is Tripp. It doesn't mean that the alternate can also attend.
Yeah.
Right.
Just as a thought. A little carpooling even. So, and, with all these other meetings too, alternates can always be there. There's no limitation. You just won't be voting. But if you don't want to get a fill in and you're really interested, feel free to come. Napa County League of Governments, NICLOG, we all go to that. That's always a lot of fun. At least I think it's a lot of fun. So, and those meet quarterly. Emergency preparedness. We have Eric and Robin.
And to back up for, this is 2023, City of the St. Helena is the host. Maybe we should put the county information.
When I send the updated roster, I'll include all 2024 calendars with their links.
Okay. So good.
Emergency preparedness. Eric and Robin, want to
Like
keep
to
it?
remain? Yeah.
I'd like to, yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
no
just
change.
if I can make one comment real quick before you go through all the ad hoc and standing committees. I know that last year at some point there was a determination made by Gary that certain things that were being treated sort of ad hoc became standing committees, therefore were subject to Brown Act and all of the open meeting laws. I guess my point is, if you feel like that may be hampering some of the discussions, because I know I talked to you some about the housing, you can disband these as well. So I just want you to, as you're talking about, are we keeping it the same? Also, when it comes to these, at least think about that. And if I can share with my thoughts if you'd like, but I just want to make sure that's something you're thinking about as you work through these. I think there's 3, right? Yeah,
Right.
3 of them. Yeah.
And,
Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. And the very next one, of course, for everyone's consideration, if we want to keep it or not, is the Napa Valley Unified School District. I know we've kind of, I think, worked it out with the school district, what they think this meeting is versus what we think it is, and it isn't. I don't know if I don't remember hearing any reports. I'm not really sure if you
Yeah.
met.
Yes.
But right now we have Eric and Pam are our 2 appointees to go to that when we get invited.
I meant just quickly, what was discussed was that this 2x2 would be not used for negotiations to the school site, would be used for discussions related to any students that are still in Yountville and what programs might be made available. I think we talked about really this becoming an annual meeting versus then a more regular meeting. And I meant to ask you, Gary, and I know I didn't, so not to put you on the spot, but I don't know if there's any legal purpose that the 2x2 committee serves, because I know there was whatever the other committee was, this that was part of the actual unwinding of the school that was required, the 7-Eleven committee. Thank you. So I don't know if the 2x2 committee has any legal standing, but
So my understanding is this was a request from the school district to have a recurring meeting and line of communication between a couple council members and representatives from the district. So I think that's the basis for it.
okay. So then I guess at your discretion if you want to keep it, but we did limit the scope of it considerably.
So with that, first, do we want to keep it or not? I'll let our current members, is this something that's been ongoing? Have we had any meetings?
No, we had one meeting, and they got back to us with some answers, and that was pretty much it. So I suppose every time they send a request, we could appoint new council members. It could work that way, or we could have people standing by, but I don't know that they ever call an emergency 2x2 meeting.
Right. I think it's important for the council or representative of the town to be following, because we do still have children that attend Napa Valley Unified, but I'm not sure it's an ad hoc committee that we need to keep ongoing.
Okay, so we'll take it off the list, and if we get any more invitations, we can easily put it on the next agenda. So this might be a 2-week delay before we can go and figure out who's going to go and check calendars. So, all right, we get thumbs up from our town manager. All right, Housing Standing Committee. So we just heard from our town manager about this. Right now, I'll let same 2 council members, Knight and Reeves. What are your thoughts?
Well, after discussing it with the town manager, I kind of feel the same way that most housing decisions we all as a council member want to participate in. And so any kind of information that's gathered before making housing decisions seems like it should be made to all the council members. So I feel like maybe this is one that we don't need anymore.
It's much like our housing authority meeting that sometimes we have, the same information that comes to a regular council meeting. So I think, as a council and through our discussions, our one-on-one weekly meetings with the town manager, if we, really want to bring in some outside people or bring up a certain topic, it seems reasonable to me.
And I agree too. We've incorporated doing like working working meetings too. So I think it's beneficial when all the council's participating, and if we need to do something, if it's not something that happens annually through the Housing Authority, we could have a working group or a working meeting where we invite Napa Valley Community Housing or whoever, and so I agree. I think we should just act as a council when we're discussing housing.
All right, so 2 off the list. Okay, so back to MTC. So now that we've all getting more used to serving on outside commissions and boards, this is something that we've always delegated to a county supervisor, but, other cities, they actually delegate, or if somebody's interested, a council member can certainly go to this, and a backup is to just delegate it to our council representative. And, we don't always hear, what those meetings were about. So is this something we want to kind of continue delegating to our county supervisors, or is anybody interested in MCE? Or would you like to get a little more information and leave it as it is until?
Well, I would be interested in considering having someone from the council participate, because I think.
Are you nominating yourself?
Yes, I would.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I didn't
you
know
go.
if we were at that point or we were going to still discuss whether we wanted.
We are discussing all aspects.
Okay, then
of this.
I would be interested. Having worked for a wind power company for several years, I do have some knowledge of electric grids, not as much as a lot of people for sure, but it's not all news to me. And I am a supporter of green energy. So
Wait, that's MCE, not
Right.
I
MTC.
thought she was talking about MCE.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
MCE, right. I'll get to MTC
Okay.
next, which is pretty much
Need an alternate.
going to be the same kind of discussion.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll bring that, if we bring this back in 2 weeks, maybe you can follow up just to confirm that, have a chat with Ryan or Beth Painter. And
Yeah.
I think it's in San Rafael where it is.
Yeah,
and I
that's
don't-
where they're
not-
headquartered.
Yeah.
I didn't want to preempt Council Member McKee Cant, though. So do you have an interest in this, the MCE?
No, I said I'll be your alternative.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to be sure. Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, so, good. We're going to have an active,
Third Thursday of each.
hey, Brad, took 2 off, but we added 1 more. So,
Well, I think purpose of that one, it does say 7 o'clock third Thursdays. It sounds like San Rafael and Concord are both listed as the meeting sites. So obviously there's a time and travel commitment there. But I'm definitely interested in understanding more about MCE. So whoever, now that we can talk about maybe, because I think if there's a designated rep, sometimes, and I don't know how this would actually work, but, we could watch the meetings. Maybe you don't have to travel to the meetings, but there may be a way for us then to use our county delegate or whomever to bring influence policy or bring things forward. So I'll do a little homework on this too. But I do know that those those MCEs and the MTCs of the world, they're huge, right? And so, we're kind of a, small but mighty. But I just want to make sure you're valuing your time, of course, but also as we think about it, where should we be strategic with these types of relationships? So I'll work with you on
That
that.
makes sense, yeah. So
I'm not even positive MCE is still Marin County Energy. Didn't they change that name?
I mean,
It's clean energy, right? Marin
Yeah.
Clean Energy?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if we have that title right, so maybe you can just make a note.
Definitely, I saw that change as well.
Yeah, I think MCE changed to something else, but it's still MCE. MTC, same thing. We don't really have, I believe, the MTC, I don't think we delegate. I think that, I know we get an update at NVTA, the MTC. We get a lot of money from MTC because they're a big regional entity that helps distribute some transportation funds. But this one, it says the representative can be either a council member or may choose to share representation with the MCE member. I'm not really sure why that would be necessarily, but, we've never really had a representative on MTC. This might be something that the Board of Supervisors,
Yeah.
I think we need more information on this one. Do you have any more information? than I do
I seem
there?
to remember that MCE was open to members of other councils in the region, but I thought MTC was a little bit more regulated in terms of approval, too, from the county. So we should probably look into
Yeah,
it.
can you?
I'll get some
we won't-
clarification
we
about
won't
that.
Do anything that we'll have to undo, but yeah, maybe when we bring this back, if you could give us an update.
Definitely.
Is this just an FYI on who the representative is, or, because it's really not a representative from
Yeah,
us?
I will go ahead and get some
Okay.
clarification about what the role entails and what the responsibility is.
Okay, so just to summarize, I've got flood control, Robin is the alternate, NVTA, we will, the first alternate is Tripp, and the second alternate is Knight, and so I will remain on NVTA, and Robin is now the second member. A-BAG, we have Eric will be our representative, and the alternate is Tripp, and maybe we'll hear from both of them. And MCE is Councilmember Tripp. Do we need a motion to make this official, or was that enough information?
And Mayor, I also want to just clarify for the city selection, I'm there, but it's really the position of the mayor and vice mayor. Is that correct?
That's, yeah, that's
correct.
by bylaw too, right.
Okay.
Yeah. And we don't meet very often because there's not many, it might be something like MTC and LAFCO might be the only, I'm not positive, but I know LAFCO, that authority goes through them by state law, I believe. Is that right, Councilman, or town
Yes,
attorney?
yeah. So the LAFCO position is appointed through the city selection committee, and it rotates. I think they're the ones that actually make the appointment.
Right.
That's right. To your question on the motion, yes, the council should have a motion to make these appointments and make these changes. I think your clerk has been going through and making notes. I think there are only a few changes. If those are all clear and you all know what those are, then a vote can be taken to confirm those, or we can provide additional information prior to the vote if needed.
My request might be on the MCE that, following along with what the town manager suggested, we do a little more investigation. I think that's what you suggested, right, Brad? Yep. So with the exception of that one, perhaps we could hold that out of any motion. There you go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
You know, the MTC, I think we can make a motion on MCE.
I think Brad was
Well,
talking
we
about
were going
MCE,
to,
and that's what I had volunteered for.
yeah, I think if we can just appoint someone to MCE, then I think we can follow through on that. But I'd like to understand it a little better.
Okay. So we're going to get understanding on MCE and MTC, and so we'll get a motion. I think town clerk is clear on making changes to Napa County Flood Control in terms of the alternate MVTA and A-BAG.
Yes, Mayor, as well as disbanding any of those committees that you mentioned.
Okay, I'll make that a motion.
I'll second
Councilmember
it.
McKee Kent is going to second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? That passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, now we are on item D, which is a discussion and potential direction to staff regarding construction activities and the scope of permits in the town of Yountville.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I'm happy to be here today. Again, as the mayor mentioned, this is a discussion item regarding recent construction activities that have exceeded their scope of their planning approvals or their building permit approvals, such as exceeding the scope of demolition. Those are a couple of the recent examples that have happened this past year. As you probably know, again, the California Building Standards Code became effective in January 2023. The council adopted those building codes, which took effect in January. The building codes are updated every 3 years. And these codes, again, as you probably are aware, are to help to protect the health, wealth, and safety of our citizens here of Yountville for a construction project. The town's general plan also has the safety and hazards section of our document, which also incorporates related building policies and programs. Some of those include reducing the risk of loss of life, personal injury, and property damage resulting from structural, electrical, or fire damage to structures through code enforcement as well as public education. There's review and inspection of new development, building additions and remodels, and enforcing, again, the California Building Code and any other local amendments that might be associated with those projects. One of the other policies and programs is to continue to update the town's building and fire codes and provide information to the public on new code provisions as they come up. Additionally, the town has the design review chapter of the municipal code, which establishes procedures for design review, which ultimately are in place, again, to promote and protect the safety, convenience, comfort, and prosperity, and also general welfare of the town. The municipal code also provides for enforcement for projects that may exceed the approved scope of work and are in violation of the code, or in violation of their design review approvals or building permits. Again, when a violation is determined, the town may issue a stop work order. We can revoke or modify a prior permit or approval, and there can be fines or penalties or potentially civil or criminal procedures as remedies as applicable or if necessary. Even though these policies and procedures are in place, these won't prevent projects from exceeding their approved scope of work, and there may not be anything that can prevent projects from exceeding their scope of work. But in thinking about some of the recent activities, staff took a look at some of the things that we might be able to do to maybe lessen some of those things that come up. And in contemplating, we are thinking about enhancing or expanding some of our conditions of approval that are associated with the design review of projects or the building permits. I'm familiar with a formal pre-construction meeting that typically takes place with the contractor, property owner, as well as each of the departments that are present at those meetings, and sometimes outside agencies like the fire department participate in those meetings. And again, they serve as a reminder to the contractor and the property owner about the requirements, such as hours of construction, the need for encroachment permits, and again, is reminding them about their conditions of approval and what they should do should they need to change the scope of work during the construction process. Again, those have been in other jurisdictions that I've worked in as formal meetings. They're recorded meetings so that they are aware of those requirements. I think we can improve on some of our educational materials to provide to contractors and property owners as part of those formal meetings and to include on our website as well, again, just so that people are more aware of what they need to do. The other thing that we are contemplating is having signs at the job sites, having the contractor post a sign that, tells a little bit about the project, provides contact information, and should something come up during construction, like maybe on the weekends, the property owner can call that contractor and say, okay, what's going on here? You're working outside the scope of hours, things of that nature, to be able to, again, provide another opportunity for the public to reach out to the contractors. Again, we felt it necessary to bring this item forward just to let you know that we're aware. We're trying to propose some alternatives to, again, enhance and provide some educational information. So we'll move forward with these. But again, we wanted to see whether or not the council has any other direction they'd like us to take, and we're happy to address any questions you may have.
Okay, so thank you very much for that background. So I don't really think we're going to be having a motion or a second today. I'll assume that until something else changes. But so we can just we're really just, going to have a general discussion amongst ourselves and any other possible direction. I just have one question, though. I think we all know kind of the elephants in the room with all the red tags that we've seen on a couple properties recently. Is there any kind of thread between the two of those? I mean, what I'm really looking for is what was the problem and what new, something new on your list that you gave us would that address it? Or are they both very unique problems? Or are they multiple things that...
But both of those situations are, at least in my opinion, have a lot of similarities as to what happened. Again, they got to a certain point in construction, felt that the wood and materials were deteriorated and needed to remove them, type of situation. In terms of some of the things that we're recommending, I think, again, it's reiterating to them, like through the formal pre-construction meeting, about the process. And when you get to a certain point, call and ask us. Then maybe you won't get the red tag. You may have to modify your building permit, but we can work through that situation. So it might, again, give them that opportunity to reach out to us, where in these two circumstances, they did not reach out to us.
But you did, during the pre-construction meeting, bring it up.
I'm not aware that there were formal pre-construction meetings for either of these projects. So again, it is something that I'd like to implement.
Okay.
I think our building official does have some, what he calls pre-construction meetings, but they're not as detailed and involved as what I am familiar with.
Got it. Okay. Councilmember Tripp.
Sorry, I don't have my regular mic. I totally support the idea of pre-construction meetings, especially recorded, so that I have heard a little sometimes here where when it gets to the council, it wasn't clear who said what and when. I did want to just move back about 30,000 feet and ask you a question, because there were similarities in both of these situations. When I was on the Planning Commission in the city of Orinda, it was kind of a well-known thing that it was much easier to remodel a house than to build a new one. And in order to qualify as a remodel, you needed to just leave one wall standing. And so when I hear that people were ostensibly remodeling a structure, but then all the walls came down, one of the things I wanted to ask you, is that true generally in Yountville as well, that a remodel at the design review stage and whatnot is going to be considered differently and potentially less stringently than building a new house?
Again, I think there's something that we can put in place in terms of demolition. Again, I'm used to jurisdictions where it's 50% or more, then it's considered a new residence rather than a remodel. So that's something that we can contemplate moving forward, is changing the ordinance to provide for that definition. In terms of construction, again, I think that's more of a contractor's call. It's easier to take down those walls than it is to just build new.
Does taking down the walls, apart from the fact that it's a demolition, which probably requires a permit or additional permit, does taking down the walls change your basic position in terms of what you are allowed to build, as in terms of a remodel versus a new home? So that by taking down some of these walls, you've actually put yourself in a different category, or by arguing initially that you're going to leave the walls up, you got a little different consideration. Do you understand my question?
Yes, I do. I think one of the things that comes to mind in something like that, let's say, again, somebody comes in for an addition remodel, but they have some existing nonconformities. If it was considered a demolition at the onset, when it went through the process, they would not be able to maintain those existing nonconformities and would have to go through a variance procedure. So again, that would make a difference in a planning process.
So perhaps clarifying going in when you will have been considered to have demolished the whole building, and if there's any question about the structure and the thought that you might need to demolish the whole building because of the walls and whatnot, making it clear to people that that was not what was approved in terms of not just the demolition permit, but the entire process. You've really moved into building a new house. Because I think that's what really bothers me. Not so much the demolition permit, which you should get if you're taking down a wall or a major portion of the structure, but the fact people could be kind of backdooring their way into something less onerous by saying we're going to leave parts of the structure up, and then they don't. And that's really what that doesn't seem correct to me. And you could understand, I'm sure.
I understand where you're coming from. And again, I think one of the other aspects with one of the circumstances that came up is, again, it was considered when it went through the plan check process as an addition remodel, they were using existing pieces of material. And now that it's been demolished, the plan checker needs to look at it as a new residence. So there may be different code requirements through that process because it is a new residence.
And in addition to code requirements, would it also have possibly required different ZDRB and planning?
It depends. In these last couple of circumstances, it did not, but there is always that possibility.
Okay, so it didn't. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Reeves.
Well, I just wanted to say that I'm a fan of all these recommendations that you've made. I especially like the idea of the pre-construction meeting, because I think that's the teachable moment for all of the things that may be different about how Yountville does things versus other towns that these contractors are working in. So I think having that straightforward list of things that you go through at each meeting with contractors and owners will clarify for people what they can and can't do. And then to follow up on the written materials that they leave with would be really great as well. But I think the biggest thing for residents in the neighborhoods would be this putting up a sign that says this property was approved for X, Y, or Z, and that there's maybe a QR code that will take them to a position on our website that describes the whole project. And I would also like to suggest that we do that with tree removal permits as well, because there's a lot of angst in town when you hear those big chainsaws going and you don't know if someone got a permit, and you feel like, oh, I don't want to go and bother them, I don't want to accuse them of anything, but I am upset if that person doesn't have a permit. So I think it would be great if you could extend it to that tree removal or major tree excavation or whatever people are doing to their whole lot. I just had a circumstance where a neighbor had a bunch of unmarked trucks come on a Saturday and they took down trees. I had no idea whether they were permitted to do that or not. So it would have been great to have a little piece of paper out there that said, yeah, they got a permit. So I think it would help all of us as residents.
If I may, Mayor,
Yes.
respond to Councilmember Reeves. Again, to that point, I was hoping that Kyle Johnson would be here today, but he's out sick to kind of walk through a few things on the website. But Kyle let me know that we do have monthly building permits that are published on the website at the end of each month. So there is that ability for people to look at those permits. There's also a search feature on OpenGov that people can utilize if they know the address of the project, and then that they can look up some of the information. And Kyle is actually working on, and I think he's just about done with another map that we'll be able to put on the website. And it has little pins for each of the property owners that have permits, and you can press on that pin to be able to get permit information. So those will be helpful tools for the public to be able to utilize as well.
I think those are great additions to the website, but I think in the moment, the heat of the moment, a sign at the address would be really helpful for people to just say, okay, got it.
Great.
Vice Mayor Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. I also support all these the recommendations you're making. I think anything we do to provide more information, more education, including is with a lot of construction where there's different contractors that the permit construction plans clearly state are either ZDRB or other type of approvals as clear as we can, so that when they pass these documents around to different different people doing work, that it's clear. And I think these will all help the process better, and especially where anything on the job site that provides an opportunity for a resident to call a telephone number or something that's visible. I think it's important. And I guess from my own experience from Councilmember Tripp is that I know in the past this difference between new construction and one wall being left also in the past was an avenue to avoid certain fees like new school fees and things like that. So it's happened plenty of times in Yountville over the years where one wall was left up and it was quote unquote a remodel when it was pretty much a new construction. So if other cities are doing things more clearly to prevent one wall construction, so we're getting full review of the changes, and I think we should consider those changes to our building code as well. Thank you.
Councilmember McKee Cant.
Thank you. Just want to thank Director Borba and the team. I think any time we can err on over communicating in in-person meetings, and especially with recording, we can hold not only the top management at the site accountable, but also their team members, because I think that makes that ownership of the conformities trickle down. And I think that's where maybe some of the communication on some of the projects, whether it was various languages being spoken and such, and so to have that backed up with the education materials too, just is a great way to reinforce and to educate. And that's fantastic that permits are available on OpenGov and that you're using technology. This is such a small town. We have a lot of interested in people and what's going on, and now that they can get answers and hopefully alleviate time and questions at the front window here. So congratulations, that's great.
Thank you.
So I think all these recommendations are wonderful. They sound like they're going to kind of solve all these problems. However, they all come with a cost. And, let's just take the example of a tree permit. You can probably maybe get, permit just based on the size of the tree, and if you have to replace it for $65. But, if we are now going to have to post this and do that, is a $65 permit going to $150? So maybe when you come back after you've kind of listened and written down all your notes from this, and we would want to approve any of this, if you could really associate a cost with this, because I think as well intentioned as many of these things are, I think we also need to be ready. Somebody comes, well, I cut down a tree last year and it cost $65, and now it's going to cost $150, or whatever the numbers are, that we just really all are aware of the whole big picture, because time is money, and I know that this is all something when an applicant comes, how come this costs so much? So I think we just need to kind of take that into consideration when you kind of bring back some suggested changes. If council, I see some
Mayor?
people nodding.
Yeah,
Councilmember Reeves?
But I think we could also make it clear that it is the applicant or the construction company's responsibility to post whatever materials are needed at the job site. So, if we
And
could
then there is
laminate-
another inspection, and if they didn't comply with that, so, yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. So if we're going to do that, then we have to make sure it was actually done.
Right.
Yeah, so it just all has these costs.
Have a template made that they fill out and put in the particulars and then post it. So we're giving them the tools they need.
Correct.
Mayor, I also want to say that it's important that the community knows that the council values, there's nothing more than large trees being cut down that disturb a neighborhood, disturb the community. And so at some point we have to have a process that it's clear. And I think in that particular case, when we see updates to the tree ordinance that will be able to make it very clear to the community that residents have to be careful about tree removal, and that the council understands and wants to preserve heritage and large trees in this community. So we may have fees that come out of that, but I think it's well worth the town taking the time to protect those assets that we have in this community that the community values. So I think you're right. We have to be careful about fees, but at some point it's appropriate to be managing work that people are doing to protect the character of the community. So.
No, I totally agree with that. It's just a matter of fleshing out the entire picture,
right,
so that, when they do that, we all are aware, and we're telling, the community that we're going to approve these fees because of exactly kind of what you said. But
right,
everything kind of comes at a cost. And sometimes trees are in the backyard, and sorry, you can't just go in somebody's backyard and go look at the tree and make a different opinion. So there's always the details that are going to kind of come with us. So do you have clear enough direction from us?
I do.
All right, public comment. Do we have any public who would like to, I'm just going to call on you, Alan. Just, you can shake your head because you're the only public we have. Okay. Alan's got public comment.
He is the public today.
Since you're so inviting, I always think the challenge is that first of all, taking the big picture, we have changing demographics. So on my walk over here, I walked by two houses that are gorgeous, huge, and I have yet to see anybody, and brand new, and I have yet to see anybody in them. So that's a pretty remote owner. And so when you have a remote owner working with a local contractor, all of a sudden you end up with a perfect situation where the left hand and the right hand aren't in great communication. So I think this kind of thing will help with that. But I think it also creates a situation where it's better to say I'm sorry than may I. And I really think it's important that we as a community give the owner every opportunity to do the right thing. But if they don't do the right thing, then I think the consequences should be appropriate and measured. So that's my only comment. So thank you for the opportunity.
I'm just going to go to our town attorney. I've heard similar comments from many people, but I think our attorney will tell us what we may be limited to doing by state law.
Sure. So a discussion on code enforcement, essentially, on what your options are.
Penalties.
Penalties, right. Yes. So the town does have a administrative code enforcement ordinance. It's in Chapter 8.05, and that's what governs this process. You've got a code enforcement officer. Your planning staff's familiar with that. State law limits the amount of those fines and penalties, and they start at 120 and go to 500 and 700. The state just recently increase them a little bit, but they are capped at 1,000, except in some situations where there's some building code issues, but still 1,500 or so. So they are limited under state law on the amount and what the town can impose. Yes.
And I know that's the public sometimes, and probably council too, finds that very frustrating when we would like to have more measured penalties, as people say, but that's some of the laws that we are governed, and our town attorney keeps us honest with that. So I hear we have more public comment.
I think you understand fully that financial penalties aren't the only penalties. I recall a certain instance where this council had a property just outside of town, and that property was choosing not to play ball within the confines of what had been put forth. And they came back with hat in hand when the council stood firm that these were the requirements. You chose to ignore them. And I think what was the lever used in that case was a hookup. So there are other things besides financial that can, I think, make clear to a owner who's choosing to skirt the intent of their permit to make them see the value in doing what the town has asked them to do. So thank you.
Yeah, we won't get into a sideways discussion here, but we definitely, our town attorney definitely gives us great legal advice on what we can and what we can't do here. So with that, yes, Councilmember Tripp.
I wanted to ask a follow-up question to the town attorney. I do understand the maximum penalties. Is there latitude if the town has to invest, just like we require people perhaps to pay for the arborist or something, if the town had to invest more money and time and resources, even of staff, to reconsider an issue once there's been a violation and a stop order, can that be added to the cost that the person who had the issue make them pay, basically?
Yes, is the short answer. The town can recoup the cost of abatement, and so there's a whole process for that. And then you can also charge fees for inspections, including inspections to prove compliance and to determine compliance. And so, yes, those costs can be recouped.
And does that require any further action by the town, or do we, as far as you know, have that ability now?
Currently have that ability. There's a municipal code section that allows for those types of inspections for building code specifically, and then the nuisance process for nuisance abatement is already in the code too.
Okay. Does that include town staff work and their time?
It does.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'm going to move on to our last administrative item today. I think our town manager wants to say something before I do.
Well, Irene's skirting away, but I wanted to say thank you to Irene and really the rest of the staff. I think that this is a conversation we're having as an executive group. I would tell you, when you say big picture, you know, I view this as probably many little pictures, because truthfully, when you get into something like a building permit versus a tree permit, it's really a different conversation. I generally agree that job site postings or permit postings is good practice and how we do that. But I just want to let you know this is not going to come back at you as like one big thing. I think as we improve communication and enforcement, compliance, all of those things, this is something the staff is actively talking about. I mean, clearly most of it falls into Irene's world, but John has a role in a lot of that as well. And even in some cases, Sam, when we get into events and things, and then, Celia's got a very close eye on all the money, and I think, as you know, through budgeting, we do look at our master development fees. Occasionally, we'll look at our user fees, our impact fees, and so forth. So you're right that these are all somewhat related, but I just don't want to overpromise by thinking you're going to get a big staff report at some point in the next few months.
Okay.
I think this will be something that we'll also try in sort of a voluntary manner, because truthfully, I think a lot of contractors appreciate this kind of communication, or if you have a kickoff meeting, you have a clear job site posting, it helps them. Because a lot of times communication is an issue between them and the homeowner or the design team, et cetera. So I think a lot of this can be done voluntarily. Where we have to come back with an ordinance and so forth is if people are not complying voluntarily, and then we need to have something that says, you must do this. So again, thank you to the staff, and thank you for all your comments. We'll continue to work on this and make sure that the community is understanding everything that's going on outside their windows. Because I do know, having been here, and it's a great thing that everyone is concerned and pays close attention to what's going on in their neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you. So, once you put your mic on, let's move on to a last administrative item, which is council discussion and consideration of council member appointment to serve as vice mayor.
Mayor, I'll introduce the item.
We'll do
Your
that, okay.
final administrative item this evening will be the consideration and appointment of a vice mayor. The newly adopted Town Council Handbook amends the process for appointing the mayor, and it is now determined by seniority through a rotation that allows every elected council member the opportunity to serve as vice mayor during their term. Seniority is established by the number of consecutive years the council member served on the town council. But in the event that 2 or more council members have equal seniority, then the town council member with the most votes in their last regular election shall have the opportunity to serve as vice mayor. Council members may elect not to assume the appointment and pass the position on to the person of next highest seniority. And once a council member has served as vice mayor, they will move to the back of the rotation. So Vice Mayor Knight has submitted his letter of resignation effective immediately, and staff asks that council discuss and potentially appoint a new vice mayor.
So our current most senior person is Councilmember Tripp, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, so with that, do we have any questions? I'm going to go to the public. We have public. No questions from the public. Okay, so let's have a motion and a second, and then we can talk. I'll make a motion that we appoint Councilmember Tripp as our vice mayor, and if she accepts and the motion passes, Councilmember Tripp and still our Vice Mayor Knight will switch seats. And we'll just do that at our first meeting in February. So
I will second that.
we have a motion and a second. And Vice Mayor, let's have some
Just discussion real quickly.
end of Vice Mayor term from you.
I want to say that it's been an honor and privilege to serve as Vice Mayor this last year, but I always supported and do support the council members' decision. And when we discussed the new town council handbook last year, to really appoint the vice mayor as a 1-year rotating term, as we approved in the rules in our handbook. And just as Councilmember Tripp said, we were talking earlier about appointments to other outside committees. I think is very important for council members just to have the experience to be vice mayor and to just learn more about how, and participate in different ways with the council. And so I was very happy to submit my letter of resignation as vice mayor and support if Councilmember Tripp accepts her appointment as vice mayor.
Are you accepting?
I do accept, and I would like to thank Vice Mayor Knight, thank you, for his graciousness overall in this whole process, and foresight to have supported this idea, because I do think that all of us getting experience, and I think all things considered, Ms. McKee Cant will be the next vice mayor. So it will be, I think it's a really helpful thing to do. Of course, I haven't done it yet, so I'm relying on your advice here, Eric, but you're generally a pretty good source, so thank you.
Well, thank you.
Anybody else want to talk? Or okay, Councilmember McKee Cant.
I can't think of a better, more gracious and compassionate example than current Vice Mayor Knight has led and brought his spirit to all the meetings. And so it's nice to have that foundation for future vice mayors as we go through the rotation. I am curious, if all goes according to plan, and after I serve and we have newly, say you guys run again and are elected again, how does it work after that point? Are we starting with first termers?
No, it'll be in the rotation. Go ahead, Gary.
I think you got it. Yeah. Sorry, I turned my microphone on. So it's based on your number of consecutive years serving to get to the seniority. So you continue to count through that rotation. It would cycle through.
Okay.
Everyone moves to the back.
That makes sense, but because other people would just be starting in, I was like, how did...
But they're still consecutive.
Consecutive. That's the key word right there.
Yeah. Okay. If they're the same person, they're consecutive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to thank the council. I think this is a really good move, and too bad we didn't do it a long time ago, but we're doing it now. So thank you, and Vice Mayor, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nobody abstains. That passes unanimously. So with that, do we have any staff presentation or informational reports?
No, I want to congratulate you and thank you, Vice Mayor Knight. I just wanted to remind everyone that, and I think we're adjourning to the goal-setting workshop that will be on January 30th. Is that right?
You are going to
We're going to go back to
reconvene.
closed session, and then we'll adjourn to
well,
that one. But yes.
The next meeting we will have prior to our regular meeting in February will be January 30th at the Community Center at the Heritage Room. The intent is to start at 10 a.m. and end at 4 p.m. So this will be kind of the all-day strategic planning goal-setting workshop. So I just want to make sure the community is aware of that. We did.
And it is going to be a public meeting.
It's a public meeting, yes.
And it won't be televised.
Won't be televised, but we did receive a good amount of survey responses. So Hillary and I are working through those today. So we'll integrate whatever comments we got from the community, and I've been talking to all of you quite a bit. The sad news is due to health issues, Jean Bonander, who's been our facilitator at least through the study sessions and was intending to do it, is unable to do it due to health concerns or health reasons. So I will, I'm in the process of calling an audible and bringing in a sub. And I think that the show will go on, but there will be a new person facilitating that. Just want to make, I know I've kind of talked to you about that, but as we get closer, I'll have more information, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you.
Great, thank you for that. So council meeting discussion, we're going to have, council external reports. I've had been pretty busy since the last meeting we had. I've attended 2 different CalAFCO legislative committee meetings. That's where we discuss our current legislative agenda and priorities. We also had a CalAFCO board meeting, mostly committee assignments, financial reports, and a lot of introductions to our, we had quite a few new CalAFCO board members. Flood control met this morning. We are moving forward with our next phase of the flood control. So just so everyone kind of knows, the very first part of the flood wall was really around, and the changes around Oxbow. And then right now we are moving to finishing up the flood walls that are north and south of Lincoln. And then the final phase, if we keep getting funding, we were able to do this current phase with some unexpected federal funding, will be a flood wall that will continue south on Riverside Drive. And NVTA is tomorrow, and you'll either see the new Vice Mayor Tripp or Council Member McKee-Kent, or all 3 of you. So
I also noted, the Mayor, that at the Saucil Junction that they're driving there just the other day, that they were actually up using a part of the new roadway. So that's moving along. So I look forward to the next report. I'm sure we'll hear more about that after your next NVTA meeting.
Yeah, and supposedly we're still on track for that whole Saucil Junction with the flyover, the 2 roundabouts that should really speed up the traffic if you can get through the badly timed lights on 29 to get there, and by the end of 2024. So a lot of money has been put into that, and it's really going to be a great.
You came in on that? There's a new bridge now that just opened. So.
Right. That's the overpass, part of the overpass.
It's different every day.
Yep.
Any other council meetings, council member meetings between our last meeting? Okay, seeing none. So back to the town attorney. We had no reportable action, but we have, are we going back into closed session, and do we need to report out what the item is about or not?
You're continuing the special meeting that started at 2 o'clock. The closed session is conference with real property negotiators. So you'll adjourn your regular meeting and then go into that special meeting for closed session. If there is any reportable action, it will be at the end of your closed session.
So we're going to close this meeting. So we need a motion to adjourn this meeting to move back into our special meeting that started today at 2 o'clock. Can we get a motion in a second?
I move to adjourn to our closed session.
Special meeting.
I'll second that.
And we have a motion by Reeves and a second by Tripp. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Thank you very much, staff and everybody. And our public. Thank you, public.
And congratulations on your.
We want